here's a scenario. A far right wing National Socialist is arguing with a normal person, a social democrat, a neocon, or some acceptable position that wouldn't cost them their job if it were found out. Someone who agrees with the general propositions of modern Western civilization, the generally egalitarian, pro some vague sense of freedom, however they define it, and pro democracy and human rights and women's rights, all those goodies. And so these two people, they're arguing about the refugee crisis in Europe, right? And and our protagonist, the Nazi, makes the following argument. He says that Muslims have views that are not compatible with the Western values of equality, democracy, human rights, women's rights, and so on. He brings up statistics about how large numbers of Muslims, even those born in Western nations, view terrorism as a justified against the very people who are inviting them in. And in response, the normal guy, our villain here, he says this. He says, "Who are you to talk? You're also against equality, democracy, and women's rights, and you would probably commit acts of racial terrorism and genocide if you could. So you are a hypocrite." That's what he says. Okay, so who should who should win this argument? Who is making the correct argument? Who is more logically consistent, and who argue their case best? Uh, I think most people would probably at face value think that the normal guy is right and he makes sense and that he just stumped his opponent, but in reality, he's the hypocrite. The person with the socially acceptable views is good at debate, right? He evaded the factual argument and reframed it in his favor. But let's look at it logically, right? Not lawyerly. If what the Nazi says is true, which it is, by the way, the normal dude did nothing to refute it. He passively acknowledges it as true by deflecting without refuting. If it is true, and he admits it, or at least fails to disavow that it is true, or disprove that it's true, then he's the hypocrite, right? Because he's the one with the logically inconsistent views, and he's the one who holds two incompatible views. One that democracy, equality, feminism, whatever are good things, and two that mass immigration of people opposed to those things is also a good thing. Right? Mutually exclusive categories that he is trying to dip both feet into, one of each. Does the Nazi hold incompatible views? No. On the one hand, he opposes democracy, egalitarianism, feminism, all that good stuff. And so do Muslims, right? A lot of them. Well, maybe. But not for nearly the same reasons, right? See, the Nazi is a supremacist of his own people, and Islamists are supremacists of a different kind, of their own people, a different people. So it makes an equal amount of sense for him to be against modern values of the West, like equality and democracy, as it does for him to be against Islamic values. And the enemy of his enemy is clearly not his friend in this situation, or maybe it is. Well, here, see, he's basically reaching out the olive branch to the modern European Western person with the normal views and saying that they have more of a vested interest in opposing the outsider, the third group of Islam, I suppose. And so people make this mistake when arguing all the time, and I bet you've done this at some point without realizing. So watch out for not doing it yourself and call out others for doing it because it's too common. So yeah, hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.